Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. But it's worth a giggle, eh?
Who sends his name with the capital G?
To keep doing daily videos on YouTube, I need to raise my Patreon and Subscribestar income to a grand total of $200 a month. So if you're so inclined, help a chap out. Zang. What's that? Someone's being censored. Let's front load this because I'm going to be charitable and nice in some areas. I'm going to be uncharitable and mean in some others, but I think I have earned the right. Appropriately enough, for the end of Pride Month, some artwork that was going to be used on DM's Guild products for sale online. You know, that's kind of D&D oriented fan community of creators, content creators, adventure creators and so on. Anyway, some queer themed art.
How queer? Yeah, I've seen your foot get caught in the mechanism. Ooh!
To do with some queer themed adventures and so on that were going to be put out was censored. This is wrong. It shouldn't be censored. Sexualized content of gay people, queer people, non-binary people, the quilt bag, whatever, should be fine. There shouldn't be an issue whatsoever, right? I think we can all agree that there are certain lines where you can justify censorship, and then, to me, that's the point of harm. So there's no harm here, so I think we can safely say that none of this stuff should be censored, and I strongly encourage everyone to write to One Bookshelf and to complain vociferously about this censorship and all the other censorship that has gone on. And of course the irony here is that many of the same people who've called for censorship of my heterosexually themed sexualized products are against it when it comes to this. So if you will allow me to be uncharitable just for a moment.
How does it taste? Bitches, you made this happen. You made your bed. Lie in it, motherfuckers.
Thanks, I needed that. Right, so that out of the way. What I think, what I mean, what I'm saying is that there should be no censorship. But we have to contextualize this in order to understand it. Drive-Thru RPG, One Bookshelf, the company behind it, started out in this business with a very pro-free speech, free expression sort of platform. As you would expect from people who lived through the Satanic Panic, many of whom were on the receiving end of the Vampire Panic in the 90s, you would expect them to take a free expression, free speech kind of platform. You would expect that of the role-playing community as a whole, up to a point, but I guess we're now entering generations that have no experience of this prior censorship. Now, in reference to sexuality in particular, there are more modern examples that we could draw upon. In the relatively early days of the 3rd edition, while everyone was producing a glut of 3rd edition material under the Open Gaming license, a supplement was created. The Book of Erotic Fantasy, much maligned unfairly in my considered opinion, and as a result of this, Wizards at the time took frit, as they might say in Scotland, and decided to change the terms of the D20 license. Now, the D20 license is different to the Open Gaming license. The Open Gaming license is pretty much completely open. The D20 license, which lets you use all the kind of D&D branding and so on and advertise yourself as compatible with D&D, that was more restrictive. And so they changed the terms of the D20 license, a subset of the OGL, if you will, in order to effectively censor the Book of Erotic Fantasy. So as a result, there's a kind of legacy of caution around sexualized content. You can also go back. It goes back into TSR's DNA, really, as well. You can look up Palace of the Silver Princess if you want to learn about some of that. They also had their own problems with the boobs of Succubi in one of the monster manuals and so on. So this goes back a long way, but it also has more modern incarnations.
I've been right all these years.
There's some additional issues here, specifically in relation to this product and to the DMs Guild. The DMs Guild, in a way, is an even more restrictive license than the Open Gaming license and the current license for producing 5th edition material. It's a specialized subset of one bookshelf where you have to meet additional criteria for publication, and they take more of your money, which goes directly to Wizards of the Coast. So you get to say this is a D&D product. You get put in a special store that specially relates to D&D products, but you have to meet all these other requirements. And you have to, if in this case, you have to aim for a sort of teen audience in terms of what's acceptable. So, PG-13 sort of territory. So you kind of made a rod for your own back by tying yourselves to D&D by using the DMs Guild, and this is by no means the only outlet, even by the same company. If you just remove the specific D&D branding, you can take your queer-oriented product and you can sell it on drive-thru instead, without having to meet all of these same criteria, and you would probably be able to get away with it. It probably wouldn't be a problem. So you're trying to meet an additional high standard that you don't even really have to meet. The corporate standards of Wizards and of the D&D brand, and meeting the sort of teen area. You could tag it as an adult product, then you'd get much looser consideration. But things didn't really used to get censored. You would just tag them as adult and that was it. But again, to reiterate this point, this is the world that you made. You demanded censorship of certain points of view, certain artistic expressions, even around sexuality. So why are you surprised when you create an environment in which censorship is acceptable, in which censorship of sexual expression in particular is acceptable? Why are you surprised that this would affect you? And most people aren't like me. Would you care to guess exactly how much sympathy most people that have suffered from the environment that you've created have for you?
How much? None at all.
You see, if you want a censorship-free environment in which you're free to express your queer sexuality and everything else as you should be able to, then you can't also foster the censorship of other ideas and other expressions, right? Because it allows for it. Every little nibble takes away from everybody, and sooner or later censorship is going to come along and bite you in the arse. That's what's going to happen. But maybe we've got a chance to roll things back a bit here. But you will have to be consistent. You will have to say that I don't want anybody censored, short of harm. Yeah, that's the standard that we need to set to. You need to stop cancelling people and stop demanding that people be censored because they include adult themes, mature themes, horrific themes, or adult artwork, or whatever else in their books. You need to stop doing what is being done to you. There's a legal standard in courts, a reasonable person. It's not actually a person, it's a sort of hypothetical construct against which certain things can be judged. Would a reasonable person interpret such and such in such a way? Right, so it's an appeal to the jury or the judge or whoever to put themselves in the shoes of an average Joe who's somewhat reasonable, and how would they picture the situation, right? Now, for quite a while, quite a lot of us have had to have our own mental construct, right? The unreasonable woke scold who will take issue with any errant nipples or whatever else, right? And we have to consider that and self-censor to try and avoid that, if we can stand to. Similarly, I think Wizards and a lot of companies have their own mental construct, the unreasonable Karen, who will take exception to anything sexual at all, probably, but particularly expressions of queer sexuality and so forth, homosexuality and so forth, right? Because we have to understand that other people have different standards and ideas to the ones that we have, right? You understand, I would hope, that other people have different moral and ethical schema in their heads, yeah? And as a result, they are going to react to things differently. So you find the inclusion of a succubus, or heterosexual content, or BDSM content, or whatever else it might be, you find that objectionable, right? Even though nobody's harmed, and it's artistic expression, free expression, and all the rest of it, right? The unreasonable Karen finds your expression of queer sexuality dangerous, threatening, immoral, unethical. And if we're to take your subjective moral problems seriously, then we would also have to take the unreasonable Karen's ethical and moral issues seriously. Or alternatively, we could not, and we could just allow things to be published and to flourish or fail on their own merits without censorship. If you don't like it, don't buy it is a universally useful test, I think.
This is awful!
That's what I said.
Look, I'm sympathetic. I hate censorship. I physically loathe it. And while I may not agree with you on some of your politics and so on, I don't know many of the people involved. I do know some of them. They're dicks. But still, nobody should be censored in this way. There's nothing inherently or innately harmful about sexuality, about queerness, and certainly when I was growing up I could have used more accepting and open information about sexuality while I was figuring myself out, and it did fuck me up to quite a degree not to be able to, growing up pre-internet. So, I sympathise, I understand. I think you should be free to do it. I don't think there's anything bad in the art that I've seen that's been talked about. But pointing to succubi and so on and complaining about them, this isn't the way to go about it. It's not particularly a double standard if you take the viewpoint of the unreasonable Karen in particular, I think. And I do think there was a different sexualized quality to the artwork that's been censored. There is a disparity between male and female nudity and sexuality, and the depiction thereof. Something I ran into when I was working on a Barsoom game before ERB got all litigious, so I'm glad there is a Barsoom game out. But my one incorporated full frontal male nudity as well, which is something that a lot of people seem to draw the line at, let alone aroused full frontal male nudity. So there you go. There is a disjunct, an unfairness there. I agree with you, but that applies as much to heterosexual depictions as it does to female ones. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing an adult stream now with porn performers, and I've only done 2 sessions, and I've already had threats and nastiness and horrible messages from people on both sides of the aisle. There's a whole bunch of people angry at me because they think that I am somehow bringing down the tone of RPGs, or putting people off, or creating an environment for a scandal or something like that. And then there's a whole lot of other people who are angry at me for other reasons. They just don't like the depiction of sexuality, they don't like me, they think the themes and stuff that I explore are bad, or they just don't like trans people. What can you do? Well, what you can do is publish where you don't have to meet all of these demands and expectations. It is possible. You don't have to publish on DM's Guild. There are other options, and we can together try to foster a community where censorship and cancellation isn't the first port of call, and we accept that other people have different ideas and different standards to us, and that they can just not buy our shit if they don't want to. Zang. Nobody's going to listen to a bloody word of it.
How swear.
In his house in R'lyeh, great Cthulhu lies dreaming, and when he awakens, he shall have the morning wood of aeons. Call of Cthulhu is a deeply pornographic card game. Enjoy your tentacles.
Say